Hello again. Welcome back to the Money Corner. During the next 3 weeks, we're going to look at the subject of financial planning. Financial planning is getting to be a buzzword. Many people use the term, they talk about the term. It's a term that's difficult to understand. And I've invited 3 guests, 2 of them who are residents of Bergen County, up in Norwood, New Jersey, up the valley, and a gentleman from Manhattan, Fred Kerpen. Let me introduce my guests and give you their credentials. Their credentials are impressive. Dennis La Padula is a certified public accountant, a CPA in the state of New Jersey. His attractive and charming wife, Lois, is a counselor, a financial counselor, and she is a chartered certified financial planner. And Fred Kerpen is a resident of Manhattan. Fred is a veteran of security and financial planning for 30 years. He's a faculty member and a lecturer at Baruch School, which is, I assume, a division of the City College of New York.
Yes.
And he's a faculty and member and a lecturer at New York University School of Extension. Welcome all of you to the Money Corner. I said in my introduction, financial planning is becoming a buzzword. Everybody's using it. Dennis, at the beginning we were chatting outside and you said that everybody's a financial planner now. The stockbroker's a financial planner, the insurance agent is a financial planner. I guess the corner grocer is a financial planner. But what are we really talking about? What are we really involved in?
Phil, financial planning is not a new concept, but one which has become increasingly more apparent to most consumers. Many more people now are becoming much more aware that they in fact really need that person called a professional financial planner. There are many questions and problems that all of us have in our finances. And typically we've had access to certain professionals, namely our attorney, our accountant, our stockbroker, our banker, our insurance agent. And we've been getting advice from a professional who is really geared to giving advice according to the expertise that that professional had within his own area, as it were. And the financial planner has become that professional who is become trained and astute enough to have an overlay of all of these areas, a working knowledge of all of these areas, and is able to provide the individual with financial concerns, problems, emotions, with a total objective analysis and service rather than one coming out of a particular industry.
But in looking over the material now, Fred, in looking at your biographical material that you sent me before you came on the program, your whole orientation and your 30 years in finance and securities seems to be oriented towards product, towards very specific product, whereas Dennis and Lois, the material you sent me, seem to be oriented more towards the planning process.
Well, it is the combination of both of them. As Dennis pointed out, there are a number of specialists in finances. There's the insurance man, there's the lawyer, there's the accountant.
And by the way, you are a lawyer. You are an attorney.
I was a lawyer, yes. Okay. I have a law degree. The function of financial planning, as I see it, is the pulling together of the various specialties in one plan, in one plan of action that is coordinated by somebody, and that is the financial planner, who calls on the lawyer when he needs legal advice, last will, something like that, or setting up the trust, who calls on the accountant to get the books balanced, who calls on the insurance man if there's risk coverage involved, which there always is, and who calls on the either stockbroker or the broker in general who handles stocks and bonds for his function, and coordinates the whole thing in one financial plan.
So you see the financial planner as somewhat of a quarterback, if you'll accept the term.
I'm not too familiar with the football terms, but I think I know enough about it to say that that is about it. Yeah.
Yeah, Lois, what is your view?
Yeah, well, I think we definitely agree. Our role is essentially the same in that we look at each of the various areas, from risk management to investments to writing the will, setting up the trusts, and then put the client in contact with the professional who can provide that service.
Why, I'm going to try and provoke some discussion here by use of a negative. Wouldn't you think that other professionals had been doing this? Logically, wouldn't you
Yes.
think
Yes,
that
absolutely.
an attorney is trying to do this, an accountant is trying to do this?
But the problem is that the attorney looks at the client, and all he's going to look at when the client comes in and says, I need a will, his role is to sit down and write the will, and not discuss, are there other areas being taken care of?
To be integrated in the best.
To be integrated together. When the client goes to his insurance agent, the insurance agent is not going to be talking to that client about his investments. There needs to be someone that can look over the whole financial mishmash, and it's become a mishmash from people going to all different professionals, and integrate the whole process.
All right, Dennis, Lois raised the point, and I'm tapping your accounting background now. Lois raised the point of the will. The person writes a will. A will is a will. A will says, I have a son, he gets X amount. I have a daughter who I don't particularly care about. I don't care the no good Nick that she married. I'm going to give her less. The will is a distribution of assets.
That's
the will is more than that.
The will is...
And let's not just concentrate on the will,
No.
but something else is happening here with the will.
The will is the starting point. There are certain basic things that we make sure are in place before we go any further. Will is one such article. The will is important for several reasons. One, it provides the written legal intent of both parties. And without it, particularly in the case of someone dying intestate, the ramifications to the rest of the family can be horrendous. I am amazed at the number of clients that we have coming in who don't have a will or have one that is 15 or 20 years old. The will is also important now in terms of tax planning, because prior to TEFRA, which was the '81 Tax Act, if there is wording regarding pre-TEFRA with the marital exclusion, and someone dies now, for tax purposes and estate tax purposes, they can be treated as under old law. The tax ramifications can be horrible. The will is also significant because it forces us as people, as members of a couple, presumably husband and wife, to really come to grips with our assets, to come to grips with our financial circumstances, to start playing some what-if games. What if we're both riding in a car and get killed? What is now our intent while we're alive to think about that possibility in terms of our children, our estate, and the planning process involved?
Fred, you've had 30 years in this kind of work. People don't come to grips with their assets and
They
with...
do not. I was just going to add to Dennis's. When I take a census in my course, I'm amazed how many people there are that don't have a will. And I have a nice little story which says, I refuse, do not make a will. The state will do this for me, will take care of the children, will take the assets and buy a bond, which we could save if there was a will. And as I said, it is amazing how people do not know how important the will is, just to speak of wills. Now this is the department of the lawyer. There are other things, as you pointed out, there are, for instance, trusts that I would call a lawyer in. Many people want to take care of their children by setting up custodial accounts, but in a custodial account, the child is entitled to the property, to be an owner at age 18. Now, some people want to get the money gradually to the children at age 25 or 30. That can be accomplished with a trust, and there again comes in the lawyer who should do that.
We've reached the end of the first segment. Fred Kerpen and Lois La Padula and Dennis will be back with me next week. We'll talk more about financial planning. We'll try to give some insight to you in terms of the elements of planning and why it's important to you and how you can accomplish it. Have a good week. We'll be back with you on the Money Corner next Friday. Good night.